welcome back everyone to the LEC. Stabby Krabby is gonna predict who's gonna win the split, and according to Stabby Krabby, it was Koi. Thank you for your service, Stabby Krabby. Also going around here, but he doesn't have a knife.
It crashed the other day, didn't it?
Yes, it does crash a lot, and doesn't have a knife attached this time. We'll see if Koi has a knife attached, and if they'll be able to cut into G2, you know, on the Rift, not in real life. In-game, because Koi is up versus G2, and it has to be said, even though they got predicted by the Scuttle Crab, they haven't been doing too hot in the regular season in terms of the best of ones. It was the same in winter, though, where they ended 7th place going into the group stage, and they definitely found their form again. But do you think they are in more dire streets this time around?
It's hard to say, because it definitely... Well, it's not hard to say. They look more dire than they did in winter coming into this group stage. But I think what it is hard to say is measuring Koi in general, because I don't think they never showed us any good League of Legends where you thought, okay, they're just not good enough whatsoever. They definitely had days where they came in and they showed up, and then they had 2 other days the same week where they just didn't. I'm really curious to see if they can redo what they did in winter. I think today will define them, and it's not easy for them either going up against G2.
I mean, that's the thing, like, Koi is a box of chocolate. You never know what you're going to end up having when you look at them in game, and the issue is that it falls into what Szygenda was saying in a couple interviews, the fact that he initially came, for instance, to play more carry-oriented champion. They realized that it didn't work so much for them, flipped to another playstyle. He was more confident lately into playing this kind of champion, but for me, Koi is a team that's going to work on confidence, and the more confidence they have, the better they're going to be in game. But are they confident enough to go against G2 today? It's remaining to be seen.
We'll see. I like that you brought up confidence. Comp said it in PGL as well, saying, I'm lacking confidence right now. That's why you're not seeing what you usually see from our bot lane. And then that's going to be so instrumental today, because the way you toss or turn it with Koi is like, they have a lot of very solid foundations around the map, but I'm always wondering what the bot lane's going to do. For me, they are the X factor.
Yeah, and you know, specifically for G2, they're so driven by their bot lane, and from the sake of Koi, they used to be driven by their bot lane. They used to pioneer the range champion. They used to innovate down the bot lane that got them leads. And while we still see some lights of that, we no longer see them actually get leads through it. The bot lane has been lacking. They've been 2v2 killed. They've been a liability at times. And going up against the G2 bot lane, you cannot afford to lose. If you lose, that's pretty much the entire game. We've seen it multiple times where G2's bot lane win and the entire game is taken over.
Indeed. And for G2, the big news this year was Yike coming in. The question's going to be, what's he going to play in these best of threes? A different champion pool he approached in winter comparatively to spring.
I love the fact that when you look at Yike's champion pool right now, in spring he would play the more carry-oriented champions. He translated in spring into more like team-oriented champions, that I would say. Shows to me that he found his role within the team to the point he can expand what he can provide to his teammates itself. And to me right now, he's maybe one of the most complete junglers you have in the league, just because of the champions he can play, the tools he can provide to his laners.
Yeah, I think when we saw in winter, we saw them sometimes be forced to first pick the Maokai because it was as broken as it was back then. And every single time you could see that Yike was not actually as comfortable playing this style as he was when he was, for example, playing the Bellwether and facilitated. So coming into spring, G2 as a whole, they really just had this philosophy where Yike, you have to be a facilitator, you have to learn this style as well. And I think they've actually been quite successful with it. And it remains to be seen what kind of G2 will show up in groups now, because jungle has been changed with some of the counter jungling. We could see some of the old Yike come back.
We could, and we know that you can pilot all of those styles, and I know, or we know rather, that it's also a deliberate effort by the coaching staff gearing up for those internationals. And Laure, you actually had the pleasure of visiting the gaming house. So what can you tell us about their approach?
I've been investigating.
I
did G2 gaming house. No, I was lucky that I could spend an afternoon with the crew, see how they scrim, how they train, especially for a best-of-5 series like this, because when you're G2, you know your opponents, you've played them multiple times, you know, if I may say, what to expect on the side of Koi. Okay, this is really interesting. When I got Caps in PGL last time, he was talking about the tools that Isma has been providing him and how it made him better in game to focus on outside of the game aspects. And here they just like dive into a bowl of water, try to stay as long as they can. And it's a way of meditating. And when I was at the G2 gaming house, I mostly, I mean, you can expect that they're going to be cooking when it comes to the draft for sure. It's expected from the G2, but they mostly focus on outside inside aspects of the game and how to build synergy outside of the game and how to work with each other. So just seeing what Isma was able to provide in terms of building the team, to me, was the most important for G2 coming into today. They're a well-oiled machine. They know exactly what they're doing.
The total package,
Exactly.
let's say, for G2 when it comes to preparation, but sometimes that doesn't always translate onto the Rift. We do expect it from G2 being the favorites over Koi, but the jungle matchup is the one to watch here, as we got to talk to both Yike and Malrang ahead of the LG Ultra Gear Match of the Week.
When I think of Koi, the first guy I think of is Malrang. He's for sure the most creative, at least. I really like that with him, and that's something I even learned some stuff from him. He's the key to the team. If you shut him down, then they don't look as strong. It's always a hard game to prepare him because I feel like you don't know what he can do. He can always do something different, and you can't prepare versus Malrang. That's the thing.
솔직히 그 G2가 솔직히 조금 말하자면은 탑이 조금 희생을 많이 하고 있는 것 같아요. 그 제가 보면서 놀란 게 프로 그래가지고 그냥 조금 픽적으로도 팀 도와주는 픽하고 조금 플레이 인게임 플레이도 조금 시야만 따주면서 안정적으로 하는. 그래서 또 미드보시 좀 압박 잘하고 전라인이 다 잘해서 그냥 제가 볼 때는 조금 캐릭터 제한도 안 받고 편해 보였어요. 조금.
Yike surviving, dodging out of vision, and 113 will fall as well.
My team is giving me a lot of resources, which is different to what all the other youngsters in the league are doing right now. Caps even played Syjuani for me. That's them trusting me that I can take over the game, and I really appreciate that with my team. So let's play.
게임 하러 가자.
Let's play! Welcome to the Capture Desk. G2 Esports versus Koi. I'm Drakos, that's Caedrel.
Hello, hello.
We're energized.
Geared up. You double comboed.
Yeah, that was questionable.
He's gassed, full of energy right now. I can tell you, Drakos was doing jumping jacks like 5 seconds before it came to us.
Red Bull in each hand.
Red Bull in each hand, coffee
Trying
in the
to
other.
figure out how many eyes I can put in wings before we...
Eyes in what?
In the ad, they have to put eye 3 times in the wings.
Oh yeah, maybe wings.
Yeah, it's... All right.
Well, the game's about to
Anyway,
start.
champions select G2 versus Koi. And I am ready to see both of these teams' individual take on the patch. G2 Esports, of course, expected maybe to bring out something spicy, but Koi also did a little bit of experimenting of their own in the regular season.
Yeah, let him cook. So G2 already taking away the Malphite. Seen that be such a powerful pick, and even G2 being able to flex it at times. Draven taken away from Hans, bit of a smile from him. Mikyx kind of nodding his head, wondering what AD they'll get his hands on for Hans for his AD carry alongside him. Annie taken away, looking at things like Zeri now, Wukong seeing so prevalent, Rakan probably one of the most overpowered champs right now in the game when it comes to just executing, because oftentimes when a team lacks a direction, if you have a champ with hard engage, you're basically given a direction. And so if you have like a comp that has a little bit of engage but not much, you can always struggle to find fights. But if you have a champ like Rakan, Wukong, or Vi, or Malphite, you can always just pull the trigger.
Or Annie. I mean, to be honest, we're just seeing so many champions that are just reliable engage tools, reliable clear signals where you don't need, whatever your language barrier is, when the Rakan ults 3 people, no matter what language you speak, you know it's time to go.
It's time to go, and you better follow up, otherwise it's all gonna fall apart. So Varus first pick here for Hans. Only Draven taken away from the AD pool, so comp should be fine in finding an AD carry. You've got things like Aphelios open, Xayah, can even go towards things like the Zeri if Koi want to run that. Wukong's open, Ahri we've seen be so prevalent. Jayce, K'Sante are the 2 AD champions, which are very flexible on the red side, especially for both solo lanes, so they'll pick that one up as a flex and leave that till last, you have to imagine. Oftentimes it's also common these days to you know, in old times it used to be jungle AD support on 1-2-3, but now I think on red side the game's kind of developed to picking a mid laner on 3 or a top laner on 3 and banning away 2 champions. We won't see that this time around. Jayce Sejuani being picked up for Koi, and G2 should be ready to respond. They can match with solo laners of their own. I think dropping jungle for a player like Yike is always possible because he plays all of these wacky farming junglers like Bel'Veth and such, so he'll always find a way to draft around himself, but power picks are very important. I think Wukong is just, I've seen it so much today. I think it was 5-0. If you include the JDG series and the T1 series, it was 5-0 across those games. But you need an Ahri next to it.
If you look at the series outside of our region, yes, Wukong has looked very strong, but for now it is going to be the Gragas again, another relatively flexible champion. A similar go button, although not quite as reliable, something like a Malphite, Rakan, or Annie. G2 now in an interesting position. They can match jungle here, as you highlighted. They can take support. They can try to further mismatch the draft.
That Gragas is a quadriflex, isn't it?
It
Mikyx,
is a
Caps, Yike,
quadriflex.
and BrokenBlade. So on blue side, oh my, are they gonna...
Panth jungle?
G2 are always cooking something up. So every time they hovers, okay, they've locked in Pantheon. So I don't even know where that's going either right now. I'm going to assume it's jungle, but it could also be something like mid.
Time to play my favorite caster desk game of all time, which is that I will fill air while you furiously Google op.gg history. And then by the end of this champion select, we will speak with full confidence about what this Pantheon is doing. For now,
you know, the problem is the pieces are in German, so I have to translate it. No, but I do remember those Pantheon changes. Like, I don't know if it was this patch, last patch, before that. Anyway, we'll go through the draft first and figure that out as we get into game. But there's a Zeri locked in for comp. Obviously, I haven't picked up their support yet, so things like the Lulu Band could work pretty well for G2. Take away a couple of those enchanters, but with a Sejuani, you really want to look for a melee support anyway, so I don't think they'll mind about that too much. But the issue is, you're Koi. Yep. What do you ban? Right? Do you ban tops? Well, Gragas could go top. Do you ban mids? It could be a Pantheon mid jungle. Maybe, yeah. So Tristana is something they're looking at. Maybe they think it's Pantheon jungle. I don't know. They're just looking at taking away possibilities for push.
And we'll find out where the Pantheon is going to go, but you can tell that it might shake things up a bit for Koi. Hard to know what they've seen in scrims, but from what we've seen on stage, the Pantheon is a relative mystery, even if it has been popping up more in solo queue. It has hit a number of buffs across a lot of different abilities over the, I think, one patch in particular, but ultimately, see what effectiveness it can bring onto the Rift. For now, the Lulu, you highlighted it. Zeri Lulu, such a powerful duo overall. So despite the fact that Koi may have wanted maybe a melee support compositionally, do not want to give over that power pick of the Lulu into the bottom side of the map. Curious as well what support they're going to put in the hands of Mikyx, if it's going to be something more aggressive. The Varus is a bit of a question mark for me right now, Caedrel. We've seen mostly on-hit Varus over the last few days. I do like the flexibility of being able to go poke Varus, but with the beefy frontline that G2 are slowly putting together, I feel like it might be a good game for an on-hit.
Yeah, it is. I think when you have something like Renans and they have champions that dive into you, if you can just dish out damage, especially when you've got champions like Gragas that can protect you. I mean, you can even pivot here as G2 and play something like Wukong here, have the Pantheon support, but it'll all be dependent on what Koi shows here, because they're either showing support or they're killing the Jayce flex. And that'll give G2 the information, because to be honest, I actually think the G2 aren't so sure where it's going either yet. They're probably going to be flexible depending on what Koi pick up here. If it's a good mid matchup for Caps, they'll put it mid. Good support matchup, they could put it bot, but if they blind pick Leona, no, they're going to go for the Sylas, so they're going to kill the Jayce flex. Now, Caps could probably play Pantheon into Sylas. I mean, AD mids in general can work pretty well into Sylas. Yep. I mean, maybe you can cancel Pantheon W with Sylas E, but we'll see. Blitz blind would be a little bit crazy. I mean, we've seen Tom Kench rise up in priority as well in support role.
How deep does the flexing go, is the question.
Mean, I can tell you already, they're going to get outscaled no matter what, so they're 100%. Probably going to index on early mid-game. Are they... Okay, so it's Varus Heimerdinger. That's probably Heimerdinger's support. So now it's yet to be told where the Gragas and the Pantheon are still going. If they pick something like Kled here, yeah, it's probably going to be Pantheon jungle Gragas mids or vice versa.
And I like that we're seeing the Heimer come out specifically because
Yasuo. Okay, so it's
Gragas Yasuo mid jungle.
I think BrokenBlade can play Yasuo too, but I think it's Gragas jungle no matter what. I would be surprised if they're playing Yasuo solo lane with a Pantheon jungle. That just doesn't do very well together. And yeah, so
Soraka's a bold bet, but if you can get through the early to mid game, and you know Soraka's just going to make this comp unplayable for the side of G2. That said, if you start to fall behind, it is so easy for a single cask to just delete your support. So instead, the option is going to be the Leona here.
Wow. Okay, so G2 have been cooking in scrims, haven't they? Expecting Pantheon top 10 into Jayce. We'll hold our breath for a second. I mean, Yasuo can probably do well into Jayce after a few levels if he gets jungle attention. Can gap close pretty easily. I'm not sure how the all-in goes, but yeah, I'm just looking here. 13.5. Pantheon got some buffs. His Q cooldown went down. Mana cost went down. His E cooldown went down. Overall, the damage didn't get that much higher, but his just general CDs are lower. So it looks like it's BrokenBlade. So I'll actually look at BrokenBlade's OPGG and see how many games he's got in it.
Strong Black Cleaver user historically as well. We'll see exactly what the most recent popular solo queue build has been, but clearly this was picked and selected, ready, prepared for this Jayce matchup.
Yeah.
So
I haven't seen any Pantheon top just yet around the world, so I'm looking at the solo queue. Yeah, BrokenBlade's been spamming Pantheon top with Ignite, Conqueror, rushing things like Blade of the Ruined King and Eclipse. I can only see 4 games of it. He's probably got loads more in scrims. Honestly, I'm looking at his solo queue. I can see Nasus top, I can see Ashe top, I can see Pyke top. Like, he's been practicing a lot of random things. There's a business meeting at Baron.
There's a business meeting at Baron.
Oh my god.
Oh man.
I wonder what the business is about. Maybe they're...
I mean, Baron doesn't even show up for 20 minutes, so y'all are really early to the meeting. That's all I'll say. So many lovely faces here in Berlin as we get ready for our first game, G2 Esports versus Koi.
We got some Koi fans in the audience. Vamos Koi cheers. You can see some Koi shirts as well. And then the G2 army is, of course, here as well.
Yes.
Very loud.
See, I like this. When you hear the LCK, the LPL, you take turns. Nah.
We just go over each
here.
other.
You scream at each other until no one can understand anything, and I'm here for it.
It's like a meeting argument. Whoever shouts the loudest gets heard.
And look, all I'm saying is that one side or the other is going to have 4 dudes ready for a meeting at Baron, and that's something that they should be aware of. Because I don't know if those guys can shout, but they're wearing suits, and that's got to give them some credibility.
Respect to the drip. G2 and Koi are going to have a meeting at Baron, but I think it's going to be very messy because G2 have 3 ignites. Top, mid, and bot. They're not playing any exhaust, no TP, nothing. So side lanes will become a bit complicated. I mean, Pantheon has a global, right? So playing side lane becomes a little bit easier with that in a sense, but...
Yeah, but that global's significantly worse when you're not jungle or mid lane. When you're playing it from the top side of the map, you cut out half of the range because you can't go any further than the top lane, Caedrel.
You can't, but we did hear Malrang talk in the Match of the Week video about how BrokenBlade sacrifices a lot and roams a lot.
Yep.
And I think Pantheon top, moving towards mid, ganking Larssen, maybe looking for ults towards bot if he bases an ult spot, you know. Things like that might happen, we'll see. But in the early lane, might be a bit of a pain because Jayce obviously is a range champ. It will be a bit of a struggle for him. He needs his jungler top though. You can see both junglers starting on the bot side. They need to play around this top side, make sure that they can, well, first of all for Koi, that Jayce can push, and second of all for G2, they can threaten the kill with Yike.
Yeah, Yike looks like could just path up to the top side, and again, any kill in this lane can very quickly get things out of control. That said, I really like the reliable output of a Sejuani on the top side here. It feels like overall edge, maybe not in terms of burst damage, but in terms of the CC, the setup, going in the Sejuani's favor. And you can see now that BrokenBlade ticks over to level 2. He's had to burn 2 pots. He's had to burn so much health just to get that initial level 2.
Yeah, what he's done is he sacrificed his health to hit the wave. So as Szygenda hits BrokenBlade, he hits the wave to get the push, and he uses his potions. In the long term, it's going to suck. But if his jungler can get up here and they can threaten the dive, it will pay off. Now there's a ward in river, but Malrang's not even going towards top. Maybe he's looking for an invade onto Yike, who's done Red Raptors, Gromp, level up, ward across the wall, did spot Yike, but Yike saw the ward as well, so they both know they're in this river. Just gonna have a little bit of a stare down.
You gotta love this about Gragas. He just stares at you, takes a drink, and gets ready for the fight.
The way he walks is just so funny, isn't it? All we need now is the emote game, but Malrang's hiding on the bush. Yike needs to track him as much as possible. Maybe gonna threaten some Raptors here. I wonder if Caps has push. Yeah, he does. He's fighting Larssen to make sure that he can't move.
Getting aggressive here. Yasuo level 3, very powerful. Caps debating where he wants to throw the tornado. Will not connect. Can use the Raptors to get through. Looking to stack the Q up as quickly as possible. Has a lot of lethal tempo.
Phase rush. Gets Malrang out. Yike wants to camp though. But he needs to be careful that BrokenBlade can't get ganked because Malrang can sack the camp here and gank top. He could just Q over the wall onto BrokenBlade because the wave needs to crash, but maybe he thinks it's a bit too dangerous. Information is everything here when you're playing such volatile lanes. Yike needs to find Malrang so Caps and BrokenBlade can push and trade aggressively. If he loses him for a couple seconds, there's a chance they might get ganked. They lose their flash and now they can't push.
Larssen getting poked out here. Will have a decent amount of sustain. But Caps in an extended laning phase, of course, with the passive shield coming through, bone plating, as well as the healing coming in from the Dorans, is going to make things a lot easier for him to just out-survive.
Do you want to hear a fun fact about Heimerdinger?
Yes.
What do you think Heimerdinger's win rate is in the LEC Spring Split?
Just Spring?
Yeah.
It's got to be like 40, 50?
12.5%.
Was that like 1 in 7?
I don't know how many games it was, but 12.5%, that's a low number.
Someone's got to be absolutely... Someone just screamed in my ear that's 1 in 7. So
that's 1 in 7?
Confirmed.
Wait, how did you...
My basic math skills.
Daniel Drakos on the mic.
There it is.
Get this man... Actually, don't get this man a calculator. He's a human calculator.
No, don't do that. That's bad. We talked about this yesterday when we were struggling to do math.
Oh, gank top. They've still been sitting up here.
Flash in, immediately going to throw down the Ignite. Conqueror already instantly stacked. courtesy of that Pantheon passive on top of the W. Now they're trying to focus down Szygenda, but they burned a lot of their cooldowns. They pretty much run out of options here. BrokenBlade now stepping forward. Aegis Assault not going to do a lot here, but he's going to leap in again. Those CDR buffs looking strong. First blood coming through. Malrang, you ain't got no business being here.
The only way is forwards for BrokenBlade. Jumps on top of Szygenda, manages to get the kill. Caps fighting Larssen here in the wave, does get the Q stacked up. Doesn't look like he's going to commit to it anymore. But that's a 2-0 Pantheon in the first 5 minutes of the game. He's going to get the wave in as well. That's going to be a straight to Dirk. Szygenda is not playing phase rush or anything that can make him very safe. Of course, he can knock back on the first Pantheon W, but he'll never really win the trade.
Damn. And you know the problem for Szygenda? He's going up against a Spartan, but this man, Jayce, he's just a politician. Like, what hope do you have? Lore-wise, you don't stand a chance.
He's got the power of Piltover. But what is Piltover to a god?
Why are you overpronouncing the P so
I don't know. I just remember the series, dude. When he's doing that speech. Do you watch the series? He's doing the speech about the power of the future.
Yeah.
Mikyx level 3, roaming around the map.
I mean, it's a timely reference to bring up because, yeah, the future is what Szygenda's going to have to look forward to because these next few minutes of laning phase are not going to be great for him. But now all Koi coming up looking to lock down Caps. Windwall coming in, they're trying to body block, they're trying to separate him, but they've already taken out Caps. Now the fight moving in favor of Koi. The stolen Gragas cast going to knock back Mikyx. Yike running, but Koi careful not to overextend here, careful not to overcommit. A bit of poke back in the favor of G2, but they'll walk away with the kill onto Caps.
I think Caps had a window to ult there, you know. Yike used the E, but BrokenBlade's now fighting off against Szygenda. We'll see in the replay a little bit later on. Szygenda's trying to trade back because he knows it's only going to get worse the longer this goes on, because BrokenBlade's next W is a shorter cooldown than the knockback. Oh, Yike.
Going in, taking away the big Raptor, asserting dominance. Malrang very far behind in the individual matchup. 19 CS to 35. This is crushing.
Level 3, yeah. He's going to get pushed back. The barrel will just... I think he got a little bit of vision on him as he recalled. So now maybe he's calling for a top dive. You can see Trymbi's the next in line of defense to try and cover this. He needs to hide, though. He doesn't want to give information that he's there. So he's going to hug the wall. Yike will spot him now. Do they still commit?
I think they back off. BrokenBlade doesn't have passive stacked. We'll just walk away.
And all the meanwhile, bot's just sitting in isolation. Mikyx's not been able to roam, but they're getting a small CS lead. So this is going to be the top fight replay, where BrokenBlade, interesting, just instantly flashes on top of Szygenda, drops Ignite, gets as much damage down as possible. Szygenda thinks he can get away right now, but Yike actually, instead of E-flashing, he flash E's kind of to make sure that he lands on Szygenda and he can't react. And then you can see here, waiting for cooldowns, BrokenBlade charges forwards, gets the W up again. Szygenda's just in range, gets the empowered Q. Actually, it wasn't even empowered, just managed to kill him straight through it. Probably the Conqueror stack up. That's the empowered Q.
I mean, and the big thing about Pantheon is when you have the Mortal Will passive on the W, you get 3 instantaneous autos after you connect on the stun. So Conqueror, instantly procced. Every time you want to all in with W as your first ability, Conqueror is immediately procced. And that is a massive, massive amount of damage in these early game skirmishes. And First Strike, yeah, it's a bit of poke. Yeah, it's certainly going to feel good as you get later and you stack up money. But in these all-ins, superior Keystone by far in the hands of Pantheon is Conqueror. But now the knock-up, anything you can do, I can do better. The stolen Yasuo ultimate, but they're going to turn it back! They're taking turns! But Caps comes out on top. He gets the initial kill. Still a 1-for-1.
It's the reversal, isn't it? Nice setup.
Like OGN 2014 Summer Blind Pick Yasuo. It's just flashback.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Game 5 Blind Pick Yasuo. It's all coming back to
Yike,
Caedrel.
Yike. BrokenBlade has ult. Here he comes from the heavens.
BrokenBlade looking to land the spear, connecting it onto Szygenda. There's just nowhere for him to go. He's ignited. The Aegis Assault now coming out. BrokenBlade trying to walk this one away. He's going to come through with the spear.
God. G2 just want to fight. Koi are giving it to them. And they're just going to only get stronger and stronger with these champions. When BrokenBlade gets a base off, he can build towards the Eclipse or the Yomus, whatever he wants. So what they do here is Larssen takes the ult and then Malrang Q flashes, get the knock-up. So the setup is really good, but Caps windwalls the stun, so then he's absolutely fine. Yike comes in with the knock-up, Caps then turns it back onto Larssen. And he gets a bit of sweet revenge, ends up in a 1-for-1, but the kill goes over to the Sejuani, so not ideal. And the push out of the wave comes through. Yike then moves up towards the top side, levels up, I think, from one of the minions in mid. Szygenda thinks he can try to trade onto him, but loses track as to where BrokenBlade is. It looks like a 3v2 initially, so they dash in for it. But the knockback on the ult.
Excellent disengage. Look at BrokenBlade just push his buttons on Szygenda menacingly. That's what you love to see from a Pantheon player. And the thing is, once Pantheon gets ahead, it's so oppressive. Such a ludicrously oppressive champion. Now you've got this additional lethality. The lane is not going to get any easier for Szygenda for quite some time.
So, we'll see who takes the first dragon. Yike's now hovering around it, but Herald's up. They've put a ward onto it. Koi 3 men on this top side. They basically abandoned Comp. He's falling a little bit behind in CS, but he's their late game insurance. Right now, they need to manage this top side. Otherwise, they're going to be under constant threat of dives. 3 men mid again from Koi. They get spotted by that creep. You can see pings on the minimap from Caps. And all the meanwhile, they're taking the dragon. So maybe Koi can get here in time. No vision, though.
Mikyx with a decent amount of setup, waiting in the darkness. Of course, they have spotted him on the crab, as you highlighted, but the dragon will fade away. Mikyx now needs to retreat, and it's a bit of a difficult early game thus far for Koi. 2.5k and a dragon for G2 is a pretty significant advantage at this stage of the game, and as you highlighted, as they scale, as they get more items under their belts, they're going to be more heavily favored, but with the rate that G2 are snowballing this early game, with BrokenBlade being 3-0, whatever hope you had of outscaling is now 10 minutes later, 15 minutes later, because he's just simply too far ahead in terms of itemization.
BrokenBlade's getting top waves in, eyes on him, because now Szygenda tried to hover mid Caps.
Clean combo coming in from the Yasuo, and it's just a one-shot in the mid lane.
Yeah, Mikyx's hovering. I feel like Malrang and Trymbi have been trying to cover mids, but on the windows that they tried to cover, G2's either there or there's no action to be had. But when G2 picks a window, there's always a fight. So Mikyx's roams have been so valuable, and Trymbi's haven't really amounted to too much. Couple kills, yes, but G2 always finding the upper hand. Look at the trade.
Another
Then he pops the E,
all
can't take any damage. Rinse, repeat. Always kind of sucks for the Jayce, doesn't it? So,
I mean, that's just an infuriating trade. He just takes a third of your health bar, and you can do nothing back in return.
G2 have literally just ran from Bot River, taken Drake, through mid, got a kill, and taken Herald. The map is in a shambles right now for Koi. No flash on Caps, though.
Waiting on the wind wall as long as possible. Going to wind wall through now, trying to dash it. Good knockup, but here comes the Pantheon. This could be bad for Larssen, because immediately they're going to try to turn it back. BrokenBlade flashing forward, now focus. Eyes on Malrang, but he's got no mana. Szygenda ready with the follow-up. Trymbi going as fast as he can through the acceleration gate. Desperate to re-engage, desperate to get something back, but here comes Mikyx trying to deny it. Trymbi now going forward. Boom! Shut down onto BrokenBlade. Koi spot their man, they call their target, and take him down. Trymbi on the retreat. Ooh. Quick reaction there coming in from Mikyx. Yike needs to body block forward. Mikyx barely able to make it out, getting out the flash as well as the stopwatch. Koi overall coming out pretty well in that mid lane trade.
Trymbi just leveled up, maybe on the look for a snipe on the ult. Yike had no mana with the body slam to stop Szygenda, so Mikyx had to stopwatch the initial QE and then flash the hammer coming down. So Koi are fighting back, big shutdown over to Szygenda. You can see BrokenBlade CS is behind. He's only 400 gold up at the moment despite having those 4 kills because of that shutdown and because of all the CS that he's dropped for these roams. Hence, gonna get Trymbi's flash with the ultimate. And both AD carries trying to get themselves involved, but it's just a scrap towards the mid-top side, isn't it?
Yep.
Goredrinker picked up now for Szygenda against all these mini-champs. Makes a lot of sense. We'll see how much action he can find on the top side, but we're just going to get a quick replay of that because I think Caps obviously has no flash. Look at Larssen here. Really quick fingers. What he does here is he wants to ult and E, but the wind wall is something he has to be careful of. So he E ults and then gets the knock-up, gets the kill. Nice ult here from Malrang. Saves it for when the Pantheon lands. BrokenBlade matches the flash onto Larssen. And then I think the disengage comes through here, but Trymbi just finds his window. Yep,
acceleration gate comes in. BrokenBlade no mana to really recommit here, but they think maybe they've got an angle. Instantly the call to turn on BrokenBlade. He doesn't have the Aegis Assault, he doesn't have any tools to respond at that point, so makes it an easy play.
Mikyx reaction. Oh, that's in slow motion as well. And then Yike has no mana for body slam, so he has to flash the hammer. That could have been a kill, but quick fingers from Mikyx.
And credit to Mikyx, but also credit to Koi for fighting back a little bit here. Yes, G2 are still holding on to their gold lead, but for a lot of these early fights, Koi felt like they were getting danced around a little bit. Felt like a lot of the plays they were making, as you highlighted, just didn't work out. G2 actually benefiting. An example, some of those mid lane plays. But now, Koi getting a bit more scrappy, fighting a bit more fire with fire here, and it might just be what's necessary to take them later into this game. That said, Yike, Herald in the mid lane, ready to go. Larssen going to try to start another play. The chain CC layering, not quite perfect, and that moment where it doesn't connect is all it takes for Caps to turn that one back. Another kill as G2 descend upon the mid lane. Trymbi will fall.
This game has just been a massive 3v3, hasn't it? BrokenBlade trying to get involved, Szygenda as well, yes, but it's all about Caps versus Larssen and the jungle supports covering. G2 once again coming out ahead despite Koi finding the upper hand in the last fight. Herald's going to come in. It's going to crash. Couple gold over. Mikyx, no sums, very far up. Malrang didn't have the ult to punish. Now the recalls will come in. And I think round 6 is on the horizon because you have to constantly be around when you have 2 melee mids like this. Whoever can trade into the enemy mids will get the push. And the second you dash forwards, you need members to cover you or to punish. Yep. And that's why it's just such a fist fight around this mid lane. Szygenda's recovered a lot in XP. You can see he's halfway to level 11. BrokenBlade's just about to ding over to 10. Trymbi's trying his best to roam around the map. Has the Hex Flash, so he can gap close onto BrokenBlade. Might get a kill here, actually.
Szygenda wildly ahead in terms of CS as well. Instant Hex Flash now coming through. Lock up onto BrokenBlade. BrokenBlade can try to use the Mortal Will, but they're still going to get hit as he gets knocked back, taken out on the top side of the map. Really clean play from the side of Koi, and so much of that Pantheon's early game advantage is just disappearing.
They've suppressed BrokenBlade. He was off to a great start, but now all those kills kind of even against the Jayce now. Ahead in experience, 100 gold leads, not going to really mean anything. I think Szygenda might win 1v1 after the next base. I wonder if he's going to go for something like the steel caps against this double AD solo lane. And yeah, looks like the bot tier 1 will fall with the Heimerdinger constant push into the Zeri comp. He's got his first item. We'll see when he decides to get involved in this game, but at the moment there's not much he can really do. Dragon getting picked up by G2. As I say that, Koi is hanging around. BrokenBlade has the ult, so he can get there before Szygenda.
Trying to go in down to Mikyx. They know that he's got no stopwatch. He's got no way out of that one. He's going to lay down the turret. They're going to pray, but Mikyx, he's still standing! The team has got his back. The Ultra Shock Laser will not connect, but the stolen ultimate from the Varus will. At least they're trading one back, but it is disaster for Koi as they take so long to take down Mikyx.
That was so much damage, and I think it came from Yike. He actually interrupted Larssen's W, otherwise Mikyx was dead. The body slam saving him there on top of the ult. The cask just blew through the health bars of Koi. They all got dispersed. Comp just dashed over.
Just gonna get body slammed. Has to flash out. Caps whips there on the Q to get the Q3, so won't be able to follow up by throwing out the tornado and trying to get the ult. Overall, still G2 pulling further and further ahead of gold. Now a 4K difference between the teams. It felt like after that mid lane play that maybe Koi had, ironed out some of the executional issues after the top side play, but G2 was always at least trading even across the map, and more often than not trading up.
And the best thing for G2 is a lot of this gold has been placed onto Yike. He's really their only AP next to Mikyx, kind of. Hans will do a little bit of AP damage if he decides to go through the Zhonya's route build as well. But when you're playing Night Harvest or Electrocute, you really want to make sure you get ahead. And you can see his 1.6k gold ahead of Malrang. Next objective will be this Herald in 40 seconds. They place BrokenBlade mid. I think this is just to catch the next wave. Comp is slowly going to get stronger and stronger, but he needs 2 or 3 more items before he can match against these champions. Mikyx, hello Mikyx.
He is in no man's land. He's setting up the towers, and he's getting dunked down. I didn't see that scene in Arcane.
Jayce just dunks down the Heimerdinger, takes him off the council, and Malrang's now hovering around mid. BrokenBlade's still here. Caps is farming Raptors. The map's in a bit of a weird state.
I guess I did see that scene.
It did happen. Just didn't involve a hammer.
Yeah, well, a more aggressive way. More of a coup than a voting off the island.
Bonks him out of the council. Now Hans is going to get this top tier 1. Koi's cross-mapping on the bot side, so Koi keeping up in pace in terms of map movement, but the skirmishes aren't going in their favor just yet. You can see in terms of time, they're a little bit behind. That tower is quite tanky still. Comp no flash, just going to have to dash away. And it doesn't look like they'll pick this up.
Good to Comp to get out of there. Not risk giving anything up, giving G2 an opportunity to trade back. Q3 fades away. Trymbi just going to fish there with that ultimate.
Just be careful. BrokenBlade has ult. He's hitting mid tower right now, but they can easily turn that fight into even numbers. And Hans is soloing the Herald, trying to find any play to get himself involved in this game. He's just a pushing bot right now, not really doing much damage, but just taking towers, taking objectives.
And I feel like that's the big thing right now, is because he's individually stronger in the 1v1 versus Comp, he just gets so much more done on the map.
Right, let's see how much damage comes out here. So Mikyx no flash. Watch Larssen here in slow motion. He's going to try to get the W, but boom, gets body slammed on it. QR, massive burst. I think that was a Heimerdinger turret shot as well.
Stolen Varus ultimate has to finish the kill.
Snipes out Mikyx with it, doesn't he? So
and good credit to Larssen, but the fact that that was what it took is crushing for Koi.
Did he just take the meat and leave? Wait, he doesn't... Wait, that's all he wanted?
F this stuff, I'm out.
Wait, he doesn't even care about Heimerdinger.
Bro, I mean, to be fair, like, if you think about cats, right? Do cats really love you? Like, if you stop feeding your cat, is it going to stick around? Probably not.
What meat was that? It was like
That's a great question. What meat was that, Riot Games? A little sussy.
Yeah, that was a little sussy.
Is he just
like a little
yordles?
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm gonna have to read up on that after this game. So, 2 items for BrokenBlade. Still 2 levels down on Szygenda though, so he really is roaming around this map.
Ooh, 50% of Mikyx's health. He is just level 7. Good knock-up. Caps immediately gonna follow up. Bomba coming out, but just knocking Szygenda away. Forcing the flash though. Now Caps caught up. Instant one-shot on the Yasuo should be all, but it takes Hanzama on the backside. Hanzama gonna be everything. BB in the middle of everyone, but keep your eyes on the bars. The damage he's putting out is insane. The burst on the front line. BrokenBlade and Yike ready to keep the fight going, and again, it starts so good for Koi in so many exchanges, but it is always G2 who finish the fight.
While you bow to the sun, my spear finds your neck. The Pantheon just comes in and melts through Koi. 6 kills right now for BrokenBlade. Herald won't crash onto the tier 3, but Malrang.
Damn. I don't know, Spice here, whatever quote you just said or that G2 team fight, but that was...
Pantheon quotes are just the greatest. Pantheon and Aatrox Some of the craziest quotes in the game. You gotta love it. Drake's in 50 seconds. They're gonna have to base here. And G2 will start another fight around that objective, get themselves on soul point. Chemtech soul, I'll be honest, it kind of sucks, but a soul's a soul.
They buffed it. They nerfed everything else and they buffed Chemtech. It's
something.
Closer.
It is. So yeah, let's look at this, because Szygenda flashes away. And I think Koi find one opening. And it's right onto Caps as soon as that Solar Eclipse lands. Everyone engaged on top of him, but what happens when they stack up?
Instant Varus, all the burst damage from the Pantheon, oh yeah.
Just melts through them straight away. Combo onto Szygenda and Larssen, they're gone. Actually, it looks like G2 are baiting a Baron. Koi trying to get some vision. Trymbi no flash.
Ooh. Oh, he spots him with a sweeper. The gig is up. Trymbi knocked back. Taken down. Big pick.
God, this is such a scrappy game, isn't it?
And I honestly feel like G2 are kind of just outpacing more often than not. I feel like for every, play that Koi really sets up, G2 are setting up too, and it's such a difficult game state to play out.
Feels like Yike is everywhere. He has two very volatile solo lanes. Calls Mikyx, I presume, on really good timing windows. He's got 13 out of 14 of G2's kills, and he got them both ahead or covered mid as much as he humanly possibly could. And they're going to pick up this Dragon. Just, it's interesting how G2, Dragon spawning, Nash is spawning.
Yep.
They go top side first to stop Koi getting vision on Nash and kill them, not to do Baron, and then they go to Drake. So they're actually, instead of picking up the free objective, finding picks on the opposite side of the map as well. Maybe Trymbi wasn't expecting them to be there because of the Dragon timer.
Well, and also I think playing a lot with Koi's expectations, as you highlighted, expecting G2 to go for the Dragon, because Baron would be a pretty big flip and would require so many people in the pit, and then getting that kill, shifting to the Dragon, knowing they have the ban advantage, knowing they have the vision control, and it's very good League of Legends. At the end of the day, it's difficult for Koi to respond, because the Gragas is huge. The Pantheon is also huge. Despite Szygenda having an individual gold lead, if Panth hits another good ult in one of these fights, it's just GG for the side of Koi. And while hitting a Pantheon ult like that is pretty unlikely again, it can happen.
It can indeed. And G2 are setting up around this Baron now. Obviously, they don't have TP, so they're going to lose this bot tier 1. My question is, do they force Nash and get Szygenda's TP? BrokenBlade doesn't really care about levels or creeps. 140 CS at 21 minutes. He just wants to fight. So here comes a Baron start. He needs to be careful though. Malrang can easily steal this. They've got a couple wards to play with. 4 in Trymbi's inventory, 2 pinks in Malrang's as well. How does G2 do this then? Do they jump over the wall with the Gragas ults?
He can jump over the wall. Larssen, we have to keep an eye on what ultimate he's going to take away.
There they go.
Going down the poke. He's in the pit. It's going to be all eyes on Malrang, and he gets it! The ultimate con! Malrang manages to take it away. Caps now trying to make it out to safety. Hansama waiting over the wall. Big damage coming from Hansama ultimate, but he can't quite finish off Szygenda. He cannot get in range. The flash forward will take him there, and now it is Comp on the run. G2 taking the fight, but Koi have stolen the Baron.
3 members are out as well. Looks like Malrang's going to live top tier 2. Larssen's got the base off. So 1 for 2, yeah, they got the Nash. Yike thumbs up, missed the smite. I think that smite was really early. Maybe he was calling for burst and he didn't expect it to live on 500 HP. The smite came in at around 2k. So we'll have to see that again, but that's a big breath of fresh air here for Koi. G2's comp will eventually fall off. They're so skirmish heavy. Baron's gonna give a lot of experience, buy a lot of time for Koi. So they don't actually even zone away the jungler. They just, looks like they want to finish it on a burst with a Pantheon Q. I think you have a lot of damage on the execute. I think the smite comes in around 2k. Yeah, it gets to 800. The Pantheon Q there, you see BrokenBlade's animation. It just about came out as the Baron died. So Malrang takes that daylight robbery. Comp picks up Caps off to the side. Yike comes over the wall. Trymbi dies this last Heimerdinger tower tick. And 2 kills over to G2, yes, but now the game's going to slow down a lot. They might be able to pick up this soul, but Comp and Koi can stall out this game.
And I think really the only bright side of that play to G2 besides the kill is the fact that Yike is so far ahead that these barrels are actually meaningful wave clear, even in the face of the Baron. That said, when you look at the top side, stalling games is not the strength of Pantheon, Yasuo, or Gragas. Maybe Hansama could do a bit to wave clear, but it's not poke Varus either. It's on hit. He needs to approach the wave. I'll have to be careful. For now, though, this is not an aggressive Baron. This is a defensive Baron. This is a sit back and be happy that you just bought yourself 2 or 3 minutes of peace, because G2 are still quite far ahead in terms of gold. The Dragon going to be the big objective. 2 minutes till Chemtech Soul is on the board. You highlighted it. I don't think it's anybody's favorite soul right now, but it's still incredibly powerful.
And then Elder will be on the card. So what's happening here is G2 are all covering top. Why? Because top tier 1 is really low and Koi have Baron. That would be an easy pickup of a tower, and they were hoping that Koi would look for that tower, but they didn't. Very, very cautious. They just want to play safe. Scale up, get Ceruleas on the Jayce, get a couple more items on the Zeri perhaps. And it won't net them any towers. You can see they're only about 1,000 gold from this Baron, but again, game slowed down. Now they can even just drop this soul and say, you know what, we'll stall another 5 minutes and play against an Elder, and then take a flip. Would benefit them.
Certainly would, but see if they're feeling ready to fight. 2 items on Zeri, but to the 3 items of the Varus. Did not opt for Azanias this time around. Opted for Wit's End, so a bit more of an aggressive item, but still with some defensive components here.
Yeah.
Will mitigate a lot of Larssen's threat, especially because Larssen doesn't actually have particularly powerful or aggressive items. One tankier AP item, two tankier AP items rather.
Yeah, he needs to play defensive because it's just a meat grinder, isn't it? The Yasuo Pantheon.
I mean, Yasuo, Pantheon, Varus. It's
just a damage check.
Either kill them, either kill them, or they're gonna raid boss you out of the fight. Yeah,
exactly. So G2, not many plays on the map for them to do right now. They can't siege. They only really have 2 range champions, and if they walk up, there's a Sejuani, Sylas, Leona on the enemy team. Hans doesn't have flash, Caps doesn't have flash, so it's a bit frustrating for G2 because with this Baron, they wanted to accelerate the game, dive them, try to force towers, maybe even 1-3-1. But they're just gonna have to wait for this dragon. And it's just on Koi as to whether they want to fight it or not. Their other option here for Koi, with Larssen top lane, just push that in, Szygenda can cover him, get a tier 2, get that 600 gold, and then wait out the Elder.
Oh, I like... Okay, side note from Mikyx. He puts the turret onto the blast cone, blast cones the turret into enemy jungle to get vision to make sure that he's safe to approach and ward. So if you are playing solo queue on a Chemtech Rift, Mikyx, steal that tech. That is some tech.
Mikyx, he's a blast cone enjoyer. Remember that Bard blast cone?
I do remember.
At Worlds? He's got the blast cone tech, doesn't he? I wonder if he sits in custom games with random champion just blast coning things around.
Or he just plays a lot of League of Legends.
Or he plays a lot of League of Legends.
Yeah.
So this is the tier 2 threat that I was talking about. G2 don't have any TPs. If BrokenBlade covers this top side, he's actually very vulnerable to a 4-man dive. And then you don't really want to lose a member.
But they're going to kill this Drake so fast.
Yeah, they don't want to fight it. Koi say, you know what, Chemtech Soul, don't really care. We're just going to wait for Elder, take this, get some gold on the Sylas, get a couple more items.
All right, I guess we don't care about Chemtech Soul.
Leona's covering. Sejuani is quote-unquote there because of the amount of vision that they have. G2 aren't so sure with all their wards towards the spot side. And with 1 minute 40 seconds left on this Baron, G2 will get vision around the top side after their bases, after they've cleared out these camps, pushed out the waves, and they'll probably do exactly what we saw earlier in the game. Just force it, see what they can do. But right now, experience is their biggest problem. Szygenda's up a level, Larsen's up a level. The only real threat right now is Yike and Hans, so this Pantheon Yasuo are getting weaker and weaker and weaker.
Yeah. Good news right now for G2 is that there's not really any healing reduction outside of the Ignite for Trymbi as well as the Bramble Vest. Forgot what it's called for a second. Bramble Vest for Trymbi. So a lot of this healing, especially with the Chemtech Soul, as you get additional resistances when you drop below a certain threshold, is going to make it that much harder for them to get taken out in these fights, especially when Caps didn't opt to go for IE. He opted to go for Bloodthirster, so more pseudo-tankiness.
Trying to catch waves here. Trymbi's hiding in the brush. Caps oversteps there. BrokenBlade might be in range for the ult, but Yikes, clearing his camps.
This is not ideal for Caps if you don't have Q3 stacked here.
I'm not sure if they can take this. Hello.
Walking into Trymbi. But again, they're just taking their time stacking up these Qs. They don't like this play anymore. That's the Ignite now gone. He's walking forward. Here comes the Pantheon. The ganker has become the ganked.
Well,
Trymbi taken out.
Caps got a bit of a kinder surprise there, didn't he? Just walked into the bush. Oh, Leona's here. Managed to get the kill. I can see what Trymbi was going for there. With the longer he waits, the better it is. The ideal play there is Caps hangs around, they go towards mid to get the next mid wave, Trymbi surprises him with Szygenda, they get a pick onto Caps, and then they can force Baron 5v4, you get back in the game.
Well,
but now they're probably just going to lose this Baron.
One of the big things about Yasuo, part of the reason why he feels so oppressive in lane but so weak as you get later in the game, is he really needs to be able to stack his Q. He needs a wave to dash through to really get full power. Doesn't get it in that case, but still enough.
Baron's gone though.
3K getting lower, G2 shredding through this one. That's the power of a Pantheon, of Varus, and a Yasuo, but now the fight continuing. Caps fishing for the knock, and he finds two! A beautiful tornado to kick this fight off. Malrang now on the retreat, comp on the backside. Everything falling apart for Koi, and here comes Caps again. He will not stop. G2 see their opportunity, and they take it. They'll get every buff on the map, and now they'll look to press to their advantage in the mid lane.
So much damage coming out of Yike. Triple kill for G2's jungler. Szygenda, I wonder if he's going to escape here. The spear cancels the recall. Now he's behind enemy lines. Not sure if BrokenBlade wants to take this fight. The rest of G2 are pushing into Koi's base, but Mikyx here to cover.
Szygenda, nothing really going on here, sadly.
Flash Locket doesn't save him in time. Yike is finished. Bot side river looking for Trymbi now.
I think they're doubling down. Hansama and Caps are going to end the game. Trymbi is on a walkabout.
What has happened to Koi in these last few minutes? Trymbi gets caught going for an aggressive play, but then they choose to fight 4v5. They go in after the Baron dies. They get chased down. There's no room to fight. They're lacking a lot of engage on the Leona, so they can't turn. And now G2 all of a sudden have blown the game wide open. Tier 2 gone in the top side. Tier 2 mid and Tier 3 Mid is fallen as well. 2 minutes 45 seconds on this next Elder, but I'm not even sure if it'll come down to an Elder fight because now G2 coming out of base, huge spikes. Look at the left-hand side of your screen.
10 stack Medjas, a Zhonya's, a stopwatch for caps, and 3 items. He went from cloak to fully completed IE.
So what's the plan here for Koi? Larssen lands a nice Heimerdinger stolen ult stun, but then Cask lands from Yike, double ults, all they can do is run away. If they had a Leona, maybe they could look to turn up here onto BrokenBlade on the left side, but yeah, they don't, so they just have to run away. Their front line is at 1 HP. Q flash from Caps forces comp away. E flash from Yike lands onto 3 and one-shots Malrang. Health bars are almost full basically for G2.
Body slam forward, comp ults, but not enough movement speed to make it out to safety.
Here comes the siege. Look at that wave. 2 cannons, so many minions. BrokenBlade.
He's just gonna ult for space. He doesn't need anything else. G2 pulling the trigger, getting things kicked off. Caps going gold and buys himself a brief moment for the rest of the team to back him up as Szygenda walks away from Mikyx. Oh, how the turns have tabled, Jayce. But Mikyx just gonna walk him down with these creeps. The rest of G2 looking to end the game now.
Yeah, pushing into the Nexus. Larssen's gonna have to heal up. Comp still has the ult and he's level 16, but no summoners. G2 do so much damage to these towers.
They're 12k ahead. This is the finish that they have earned themselves on the back of so many plays prior to this moment. Koi, there are no options left in this game. They must look ahead to game 2. Adapt if they want to survive in this best of 3 as G2 take game 1.
What a game from Yike, man, on your screen right now. I think probably did the highest damage as the entire team with just destroying Koi in these fights, landing multiple barrels, multiple combos.
Yeah, a lot of times when you see Yasuo Gragas, the Gragas is there to enable the Yasuo. This time the Yasuo was there to enable the Gragas.
You know how in the match week video again, Yike was like, I'm kind of like the only jungler who plays these farming carry junglers, and Caps is there to support me. He plays the Sejuani, he plays the Malphite, he plays the Yasuo.
The Yasuo is there to stop the Gragas ult from knocking them backwards so Gragas can body slam into them.
Yeah. The win wall was to protect Yike all along.
Yes.
He just had to stand there and make sure that nothing landed on him. Keep up the DPS.
And that was a very interesting game of League of Legends. It felt like, again, every time G2... Never mind. We could break it down, but you've heard what we have to say. Let's send it over to the analyst desk to see what they have to say about that particular game.
Yeah, we'll just say what you said, but differently. No, that's not true. I mean, I hope so. I don't think so.
No.
No, not at all. No. Let's pull up the draft, indeed, because the thing is, you kind of want to say like vintage G2 approach to the draft, and it doesn't matter which draft it ends up being when there's a lot of flexes.
Listen.
Oh.
I found this in the green room while we were there.
In the back rooms?
Yes, in the back rooms. If your name happens to be Andrew Day, aka Vedius, aka Flexius, the suit is calling for you because this is back to 2019. You can hear it.
You can actually hear it. That's amazing.
There he is. You can hear it. It's saying something. It's looking for him.
Your
because
goalie
the
sucks.
flex
What?
picks
Oh my God.
we're seeing here is straight back to 2019.
Yes, this is a cool callback. I want to leave some time at the end of the segment to talk about kind of the approaches by G2, but I want to do the due diligence about the game in general versus Koi specifically, but it wasn't just about the flexes. It was actually really good drafting.
Yeah, a really good drafting and a really good preparation on the side of G2. And when I came to see them at the gaming house earlier this week, this is actually stuff that I was able to see. They read through Koi and they knew exactly what Koi would throw at them. And to me, when you look at the draft here, it's really smart because they were really ready against the Jayce pick, bringing in the Pantheon, also not letting them know where it's going to be flexed at, also bringing the Yasuo mid lane for Caps. Gragas and Yasuo being a really, really strong jungle mid in the sense that this is a lot of damage on this composition. And when you look on the side of Koi, bot lane doesn't have prio. The Sylas doesn't really make sense when you want the champion to achieve in general. I see a checkmate here in the side of G2, bringing flex picks, but also being creative in the sense that what are you going to do when you're Koi in this situation?
I think G2 really called their bluff as well, going into the 4th and 5th pick. If you blind pick Heimerdinger while the enemy support still have the counter pick, usually we would probably think, hey, they'll try and go something where they can 2v2, play with an AD carry potentially down here, but you're also playing with a Zeri, which doesn't match well with the AD carry, so they knew they couldn't do that, so it had to be the engage options because it was lacking outside of the Sejuani. So because of that, you just slammed the Heimerdinger, you get priority, and then the game just became about supports, not playing the 2v2 actually, but roaming
Not at all. Mikyx never wanting to spend a lot of time in that lane regardless, but I feel like if you're the players from G2 and you feel like you've have such a checkmate going into the game, that's also going to ooze into the plays that you make. Of course, you still have to make them, but that's what we saw. Let's talk about the Pantheon then when we saw it in-game. A lot of attention from Yike towards that top lane, though. Set up for success.
Yeah, and for me, it's impressive because when we think of BrokenBlade during the regular season, I would not have expected to see him in this type of champions because this is not what has been his strongest point so far, but playing full for the landing phase here, shutting up the haters, and being set up by his team beautifully.
Yeah, it was actually a bit the opposite this time around, wasn't it? Get ahead early, make some mistakes in the mid game, and then come back strong again in the late game. But yeah, BB and Yike just forming up to be a duo where as soon as BB got ahead, every time there was a play on the map and he had his ultimate available, G2 would just get the man advantage every single time, and because of that, win the games and skirmishes, as you can see here.
Oh, I thought I heard a comm. I thought I heard BrokenBlade saying nice, or someone saying nice. I don't know where it comes from the pro view.
Yeah,
maybe I just said something I wasn't supposed to and you couldn't actually hear it, but I did hear something. In any case, a lot of skirmishes and expertly piloted by G2. Aside from, I want to say, some hiccups, also like the stolen objective, etc. But yeah.
Listen, I mean, it's
oh my god.
Oh, wow. But yeah, symptom of top teams. We saw T1 throw at Baron earlier today. We saw G2 throw at Baron also today. Yeah, to me, it makes sense. But
I cannot focus. That's...
I'm sorry.
Well, it's okay. It's okay, Guldborg. So I actually wanted to take the chance to talk about G2 because this is kind of a unique situation for us and the first time that we know that this team is already qualified for an international tournament in MSI. But beside from that, of course, they still want to bring the trophy home here and this series going forward. Koi isn't out of it yet. But in terms of the flex picks, you know, how hopeful are you? One, seeing the flex picks coming out of G2, but secondly, how easy will it be to replicate some of these things when they go up against the Eastern teams?
I mean, that's the thing usually, and I think it's the wall we ran into at internationals last year, the fact that we're able to play and flex this kind of champion domestically in the LEC, but it's a different beast when you play against the likes of Chinese or Korean laners. For me, this is a good sign of G2 because the fact that they're able to train that early in the season, this kind of situation when you know that Yasuo being buffed is maybe going to be a champion that we're going to see at MSI, I think it's nice that they use the bracket stage like this in the way to train. But to me, the type of mistakes they made today, this is not something they can recover from it if they face the best team internationally.
Yeah, but luckily, you know, it's a good stage to start prepping it, as we can already see now here. And it's not even just the tip of the iceberg because we have... Oh, here we find it. So just steal some of the meat. I actually don't know where it came from. Caedrel was confused, I was confused, but they play Kennen mid lane from Caps and FlowQ. They still go for the Sejuani and all of that. So I think as G2 flex pick goes, we've only seen the tip of the iceberg. And in this game specifically as well, like, it was hard for Koi to keep up. They actually had the right reads, but the problem for Koi in this game was that even though they had the right read, every time they came out of the team fight, the situation of how the lane looked didn't favor them quite often. When they fought in the mid lane, from Larssen was still pushing back to Cap, so he still got a level advantage. When they were going for the objectives, there was still G2 who got all of them, while Koi got nothing. So actually, I really want to compliment Koi out of this series because they played better than I expected, but G2 just, it was that game.
I agree on this, but Koi had, I mean, with the way they approach the draft especially, you see that they have to rely on counter picks when on the other hand, you have G2 already having like solid bases, having won Winter, of course, and being able to experiment in draft like this. And for me, this is what gives them the upper hand in this best of 3 series, but also moving on when we'll come to international events.
Yeah, best of 5s, it's only going to be more of a boon. And for Koi, they are going into the blue side, or going to move to the blue side rather, which of course we could have expected. And I guess the question is, I don't really equate Koi with the wackiest picks. And wacky, that seems almost derogatory. That's not what I mean, because I hate when people say like, oh, like cheese or whatever. No, like you thought about a pick and it works. In the past, I would have said it. When they had confidence in their bot lane, I would have said, hey, Trymbi will pull out something we haven't seen, or there will be a pairing here. I don't have that kind of confidence now, unfortunately, even on the blue side.
Yeah, so I want to say, with adaptation of good C come out from Koi, I have seen Larssen has been spamming quite a bit of Gragas himself in the mid lane too. So I think Koi might potentially be looking at some some of their own flex picks. I mentioned Ken in mid for Caps. Larssen has been playing the same actually in the mid lane. So just going up from what we see in the solo queue games, we're seeing that they're trying to replicate the same things, but they haven't done it on stage yet. I think it also goes back to, you say cheese picks. You can call it cheese until G2 just makes it meta. And that's what's happened in the past as well. Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's just a term for something that people haven't seen enough of just yet.
That's true. Cheese is great, though. A little bit of camembert. But anyways, if you're into teamfight tactics, make sure to check out the Golden Spatula Cup from the 14th of April, where the top players in EMEA continue their climb towards becoming the best TFT player in the region. This is the final stop on the road towards the Rising Legends final, and you can find all the info you need about EMEA TFT Esports on risinglegends.gg. But here in the LEC, we'll see if G2 can earn themselves a shot against Team BDS tomorrow. Game 2 is just minutes away. Go get some cheese.
Pantheon passive on top of the W. Now they're trying to focus down Szygenda, but they burned a lot of their cooldowns. They pretty much run out of options here. BrokenBlade now stepping forward. Aegis Assault not going to do a lot here, but he's going to leap in again. Those CDR buffs looking strong. First blood coming through. Malrang, you ain't got no business being here.
Yike. BrokenBlade has ult. Here he comes from the heavens.
BrokenBlade looking to land the spear, connecting in onto Szygenda. There's just nowhere for him to go. He's ignited. The Aegis Assault now coming out. BrokenBlade trying to walk this one away. He's going to come through with the spear.
Oh, look, Jayce. Yeah?
I'm coming. I'm first.
Yeah, flash. Look at this. I can ult, by the way. I can ult. Don't be scared here.
I'm first. I'm
ulting.
Watch on me.
Go, kill Jayce, I think.
We
win.
It's really like killing me.